Welcome, Japan.
Hey, it's that time again for the Why Come Japan show. I'm your host, Mr. Radrey, and today on my show, again, is Mr. Jimmy L. Sanchez, or as the title says, Jimmy Sanchez. Jimmy,
What's
how
going
are you?
on, Radrey? Very good.
Now, Jimmy's been on the show before. He was the 8th guest on the show, and now he's back with some updates, I suppose. You actually, you're the one who messaged me, and you got lucky because there was a hole in the Why Come Japan schedule that could fit you in perfectly today.
Lucky me.
And you wanted to be on the show again to tell us about your PlayStation collection, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I love talking to you, and we chit chat from time to time. But I said before that the collection's an ever growing thing, and obviously, back when we talked in June of 2017, at that point on my channel's history, didn't have that many subscribers. I mean, it's definitely flourished a bit. Views are way up, subscribership's way up, but also the collection as well.
Okay. What part of your collection are you most proud of?
At this point, I'm going to say that the North American collection's almost completed, down to maybe about 100 or so titles. And the bad part was when I talked to you off air a while back, it was going to get more and more expensive with each particular title as time goes around. On top of it, I also had to go and find titles that were rare. So, like at this point, from my issue, the market is the problem, more or less.
Okay. So you're probably working to, conquer the Japanese market too, I'm guessing.
That too. I mean, I bought a lot of stuff this year when I went over back to Japan in June, but not as crazy as it was in 2017.
Okay. I see. That's when you came and we did the podcast in a really horribly audio a room that was terrible for audio, which I probably shouldn't have done, but whatever.
It's all good.
Like there's for PlayStation, I would say the only place that really made games was Japan, America, and Europe. Is that right?
Yeah, to the most part. I mean, there are a few Hong Kong games scattered apart, but most of the time they use
games.
Yeah, they basically use like either the Japanese insignia or the North American insignia. They made their own localized versions, but they're very few and far between. Nothing that anybody's really looking at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had their own system. I covered it in a pickups video, I think about 2 months ago or so. There was a special model, an SCPH 590, I mean, not 5903, 5503. It was a blue box PlayStation system from Taiwan that covered the Japanese regions. And I was so fortunate to come across that because I didn't even know it existed, to be honest.
Okay, so you basically every now and then on your channel you do like pickup videos and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Every week if I can. This week I'll be doing something a bit different. Actually, later today I'll be doing something a little different. I was told that the Japanese PlayStation Classic should be arriving to my building here in a couple hours, actually.
So wait, is there other places in the States? Because I mean, I haven't been in America in like ages where you can still pick up games. I mean, isn't most of it on the internet now?
I do about 70 to 80% of my shopping on the internet. I go to a few of my local spots. Since I'm here in Philadelphia, there's ones in the outskirts. Ironically, in the city itself, there's really no good shops within the city limits. So I have to go out of my way of the metropolitan area to go and grab stuff. Plus, also, I go and visit my family every couple weeks. So I go out to their shops as well since it's more prominent out there.
Oh, these are like mom and pop shops. The only place you can get them these days.
To the most part, I mean, let's see. The shops that I go outside of Philadelphia, just outside the outskirts, they have a business of 2 stores, and the one by my parents' home has a business of 4, which I've been to 3 of their shops so far.
Okay, so there's not any like major chains that carry physical copies of games. I mean, excluding like GameStop or something.
Yeah, I mean, they have their stuff online, but they claim that they have stuff on store level, but I've never seen it. I was just there yesterday morning to pick up a few more PlayStation Classic systems since yesterday was the release date, official release date, even though I got mine 2 days prior to that.
Like, what is it? Most PlayStation games, like PlayStation 4, it's basically all of them are just you download them from the store, right? You don't actually buy physical copies of games really much anymore, right?
Well, there's more digital copy sales than physical copy sales nowadays for the PlayStation 4, but with PlayStation 1 in that era, you really had no option but to go physical. Now, granted, with the new system that came out yesterday, well, actually, new old system that came out yesterday, the PlayStation Classic, it's just the games that are built in. You really couldn't do anything to it, even though I think someone is on the verge of hacking it as we speak.
Oh, that's a nice little PlayStation Mini you got there. How much
Yeah,
was that?
it's $100 US, 9,980 yen, or I think they said 89 pounds, depending on the
Oh,
region.
you got that in England or something?
No, actually, the UK system that I purchased is coming in probably within the next week to 10 days. But the one I'm holding now is the North American one that had its official release yesterday, even though some people got it early, like myself.
Oh, I see. So, what are some Japanese games that I should probably play, or ones that you have that you're very proud of having in your collections?
Well,
Your
some of the ones that
collection.
I'm very proud of having tend to be very expensive, but if there's ones that I would recommend that are cheap for at least the Japanese region,
Ones you
Intelligent
can
Q,
play that are fun.
yeah, Intelligent Q is one of my favorites ever. Even I'm glad that actually showed up
Ah,
on
right.
this. Um, on the very expensive end, there's a game called LSD. I know a lot of people consider it the
Oh, I've
drug,
heard
but
of LSD. That's like a really expensive one. That's a hard one to get.
yeah, I got lucky at my time. I got that in just after I came back from Japan, actually in 2017. I purchased it for $257 United States. So, and now it's about 350 to 450.
Wait a minute. This game, I'm looking it up on Google right now. Intelligent Q. This is.
Mhm.
I thought this came out in the States, didn't it?
Yeah, I did in 1997.
Is there like a Japanese version of it or something that makes it
Yeah.
special?
Well, the funny thing is, the Japanese version of it, you can get about 10 of them for the price of one United States one. And I'm talking about just disc only United States.
Oh.
Yeah, they didn't make many copies in the states, and they were all over the place in Japan. I mean, I probably could have got my hands on at least a dozen or so, very easily.
Oh. And like we were also talking those other games like Pepsi Man.
Yeah, love Pepsi Man. Now, I found this out pretty recently that the United States was supposed to get a copy of Pepsi Man, but it got canceled because they didn't think that it was going to sell at all. But in the ironic situation here, one generation prior, and this was before Sony released any systems, Sega Genesis was making McDonald's games left and right. So I didn't understand the marketing aspect of it, that it was not available or would not be perceived to be available, even though, with the exception of subtitles, Pepsi Man is completely in English.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wait. The game's in English?
The game's in English with the exception of subtitles. I don't understand why it never got released stateside, because it would have
Oh.
been cool. I mean, we got a lot of $10 and $15 budget titles by that point, and they just rolled on for another 4 or 5 years after the fact. So it didn't make any sense to me why that never saw the light of day, at least North America.
Well, I mean, Pepsi Man is only that's like a Japanese mascot. Like it never really made it outside of Japan, right?
Yeah, they really didn't do much of it in the states. If we ever saw it, it was very like niche. It was almost never heard of stateside.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe because nobody heard of it, like North America.
Maybe, but then again, it's that little spark of light that could spark a generation here in the states. I mean, the United States has been known to do that for sure. I
Yeah,
mean, we got
yeah.
we
Well,
got Facebook.
I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like what was that one? Yo or Noid, the Noid, avoid the
Yes.
Noid called Domino's Pizza.
Hmm.
So
I
they
mean,
got because or I'm not sure why they got rid of him. I mean, there's some conspiracy theory about
I mean, it was
why.
he was cool for me as a kid. And the first time I saw him, I was about 7 years old in 1989, and then it just faded into non-existence after like 1991, 1992, at least from what I can remember. But I love the Noid.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe that's because there's like some story about some guy who held up a Domino's pizza place, and he claimed that because his name was Noid. You didn't hear about this story? Yes, true
No,
story.
no,
There's
go
this
ahead and
guy
tell me
who
this.
he held up the Domino's pizza with like a gun, and like he said he's gonna murder people at the Domino's pizza, like holding him ransom if they didn't change. Because they thought that he was, whenever he saw the Noid on TV, he thought they were making fun of him, you know, instead of, because I guess since he lived in a really small world.
I guess so. If the Noid was going to be his everything, I mean, he became non-existent, just like that robber, probably.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Probably the same thing didn't happen with Pepsi Man, but
Right? I
I'd
mean,
be interested to see what the history is about that.
I've seen Pepsi Man in like one commercial, and to my knowledge, they did create this like figurine of him. But besides that, stateside, never heard of him outside of that. And then about 2016, I want to say, I first heard about Pepsi Man, a video game coming out from a good friend of mine named Steve. And I went searching everywhere for it, and I finally found it in Japan in 2017, right at the same time that we had the podcast last time.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Sure. I mean, that was a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when was that? 2017 in June, was it?
Yep. June 11th.
Yeah, but I uploaded it kind of late because that was at the time when I really didn't give a shit about the podcast.
Right, I
And
understand you. I mean, I
yeah,
was making.
now this has become more of a weekly thing because I realize some people like it and some people like tuning in, and I love the whole live concept of it. So
Yeah, I do too. This is pretty cool. I mean, I remember I was cracking jokes, even though it didn't make the podcast, about the 35th anniversary of ET being on the same day that we did the podcast.
anniversary of E.T. the movie or the game?
Yeah, the movie.
Oh wow, that's
Since it
a
was out on the
really
11th.
random fact, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird. You know, I do some weird spin on some stuff, but you've probably known that from some time anyway.
Right, right. Okay, so we were talking prior, and I remember last time we talked about how you worked for NHK and
Hmm.
how you were part of their monitoring system where like they sent you a bunch of programs and you watch them and then you basically kind of you rate them. Kind of like as a tester in a way.
Well, actually, the part of it, the only part that was incorrect on that was actually was live shows. It wasn't stuff sent to me. I actually had to
Oh, they're
watch
live
it on,
shows.
just in case there was something wrong also with video quality and stuff like that. But I never came across it.
And you did that while you stayed in Japan, right? When you were there?
So almost all the episodes, I would say, out of the 36 that I did, 33 of them were in Japan. 3 of them were either in the States or in the Caribbean, since I had a death in the family at the time
Oh.
in the middle of that contract. You know, it kind of sucked, but you know, it is what it is at that.
So wait a minute. I want to talk about this. What's your heritage there, Jimmy?
I'm Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay. I guess yeah, Puerto Rico's an island, so that would be yeah, you go out there. How is that place? Like there was a hurricane there and
Hurricane
yeah.
destroyed the country in 2017. I tried to do some fundraising. I actually donated $1,000 of my own money for the efforts at that time. All my family that was on the island was fine.
Really?
It was just
That's good.
it hit it dead on, and the worst part was it nearly happened again this summer. Luckily, it barely skipped the island, so it wasn't as damaging as it was before. But the island's still a disaster. So I mean, it's going to take forever and a day to get back to normal if they ever get back to normal.
Right, right. No, because I was thinking the Caribbean. Like, what? Wait a minute. Is Jimmy Cuban? I was thinking. Wait a minute. No, Sanchez. That's a very Spanish name. I'm like,
Well,
okay,
well,
yeah.
the funny thing you say that is I actually have family that's Cuban and actually Venezuelan. This is where it ties part of my Japanese history to it because I had family that played baseball in Japan and then family that played baseball in the States,
Really?
Mexico, Cuba. So there's kind of like a 6 degree of separation with me when it comes to Japan and my love of Japan.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Hmm.
Going back to the NHK stuff. So this is some reset up here. This is a program that is. Can anybody sign up for it?
I believe it's still available. I have not applied for it in almost a year, but I know they did some changes. They started it right as we were doing the last podcast. When I applied for the position, I applied a lot. over the years. I actually started applying as early as 2009, and at that point, for me, we had to do a 500-word essay about a show that we liked that was current, and then explain it in the detail. And I don't know how they factored into that, giving me a contract, but I guess I did something good at that point because I was about to give up on it because I kept getting those rejection letters on cue. I mean, I've got them so often that you can tell the date and the time they were going to send it, and they were only available 2 times a year. Now, to my knowledge, they changed the SAE part to 250, and there's a few options in the program monitoring program where you don't necessarily have to do what I did. There's like a smaller version of it, but the pay's even less.
Oh.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, my pay was not good, but I didn't come to Japan for the pay rate. I came there for the experience. So, and it resurrected my career after that.
Okay. I see. Well, I guess I'm also really curious. How did you even find out about this? Like, I don't even know where to look for something like this.
Well, over a decade ago, I wanted to see what Japanese programming that was available because in when at that point I was living in Virginia. I had way too much time to myself, and on top of that, there wasn't really much going on. NHK, where I was at in Virginia, was 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week, and I knew about NHK since childhood. But I wanted to see if there was any way I could watch the channel, like since there's thousands upon thousands of channels now worldwide. I wanted to see if there was something available. NHK came up again. And it was like, well, let me watch this since it was on the internet, and then one day there was an option available to apply, even though I was rejected more times than I wanted to in my career. But I mean, it was a good thing. But with NHK, I found out about Fuji TV. I remembered about Eastern Star. I don't know if you remember Eastern Star, the people that did Fist of the North Star
Right.
cartoon and other things, and then it came out to like Ghibli Studios, and then other international channels like France 24, Russia 24, at least here in the States.
Hmm. So wait, you found it randomly, or you looked for it through Google, or
I was looking for Japanese television channels, television stations in the United States, and NHK was the first thing that came up.
oh, and you just mailed them or something? He's like, hey, you got any? Can you hire me? Or
No,
like, how does that process look?
actually, when I clicked on the link on the very first time I saw it, it just brought up a live stream of NHK from their studios in Shibuya. Never thinking I would ever be working for them, but it was fortunate that that happened eventually. But I used to watch that relentlessly because even though at the time I was where I was living at, I was forced to have cable. I don't ask me how that happened, but that was the way it was, and I would refuse to watch their cable station. So
How is one forced to have cable? You have to have
the
cable or else.
well, I lived in a building that costed my rent was like $1,100 a month. Barely was able to afford it. Then you were forced to
Yeah.
have cable, and then they had like shared water, electricity, and crap
Oh,
like
I
that. And I
see.
hated it because it nearly bankrupted me at that
It's
time.
kind of like part of the service or something.
Yeah, but the funny thing was why like the expression you had there, why would someone be forced to have cable? I hated TV at that point. TV here kind of sucks in a way, but even now I'll watch two or three channels and that's it. And I don't even watch TV often. I watch it maybe an hour or two a week outside of NHK. I still watch NHK like 10 hours a week here on television.
Right. So you're basically saying that the you found out through the program from NHK's website. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Okay. They just had like advertisement there saying, "Hey, be part of a monitor program." Well, they
I
probably
mean,
didn't
it's
use that
available.
voice, but
They do it for like 7 to 10 days in February and 7 to 10 days in August of every year. So the next one will be coming up in February of 2018, probably about 2 months from this point.
hmm. What did you get out most of it? Like, what do you think was the thing you felt like, wow, I'm so glad I did this?
At the point that I was hired, I was stuck at a dead end job with GameStop. Um, Nothing was going right for me for a while. For a 5 year stretch from 2008 to 2013, I struggled with work. I barely made any money. I tried to make my old channel, the one that we first talked from. Lancaster City Dragon Rats, and nothing seemed to go right. But I'm a college graduate, and I just wanted, just to wake the hell up for once. There
Yeah,
was limited
I know that
opportunity
feeling.
for there was limited opportunity for me in Virginia. Even when I went to college there, I was booted from the radio station there pretty darn quick when I was a college junior. I mentioned this very briefly in the podcast where I followed the rules, but at the time I was also a student athlete, and we came off our worst year ever on our football team in our school's history. And I explained to our local crowd that it was unacceptable that we finished with the record that we had. And when I finished saying what I said, radio station said you can't say this, and they booted me permanently with a year and a half to go.
Oh, okay. So basically, what you got out of it was you really enjoyed, well, just feeling the pressure of being out of college. Can I say that?
I guess so. I mean, out of college, immediately out of college, I had a great job where I'm working once again, but in a different line of work, if I could say that. I'm still working in the same place that I worked when we did our last podcast, but I worked in a different fashion coming out of college because I was struggling between deciding to go into the financial markets or becoming a teacher, and I had a rather bad situation, I want to say, when it came to like interviewing. Like, how in Japan where when you're a college student going your final year and you're trying to get a permanent job that you want to spend the rest of your professional career, how that becomes difficult. I kind of had that same experience here in the United States.
Oh, I see. Hmm. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that gives me kind of a clear picture in the timeline. So I want to talk a little bit about those crates behind you. Our audio
All right.
listeners probably can't see them, but you have a bunch of crates back. I'm guessing those are all PlayStation games.
Yes, actually, all of them there is PlayStation games, and this is even most of it. I actually have stuff in other areas I can't zoom the camera to because it's stationary, but
Right.
essentially put here with those crates towards the wall, there's 90 games per, and it's going really, really far down. And then there's other ones that hold certain amounts because when when I did, let me explain one other thing here real quick. 10 years ago, I was working for Electronic Arts very briefly into some of
Oh,
their
really?
video games that were coming out, and I was on television there in Los Angeles, and that actually saved me from going bankrupt then because I needed money in the worst way and got it. And I bought this like 9 foot by 9 foot bookshelf and used to put all my games there. But when I decided to go to move in 2016 to this area, I had to figure out a good way to apply space. So I purchased 6 crates, and then I got two more, two more, two more as my collection kept growing. And what you see here is about 2,000 or so titles. And I scattered a few things here today of interest, like the PlayStation thing you see there is the system that came out stateside yesterday. And then I got this lamp from Sony itself earlier this year.
Hmm.
And toward the right of it, where you see about where my hand is right now, you see a whole bunch of like it seems like monochrome boxes. Those actually were the original lineup from 1994 when the PlayStation came out in Japan. It's like accessories. I'm trying to collect every type of accessory there is from that era.
Oh, okay. I see. Was there any are they organized in any particular way or fashion?
The games in particular, I go by region, or at least I try to go by region, but then I end up having too many games. I would go with like double wide cases, then the single slim case, I mean the single jewel cases, then eventually got to a section where you had like greatest hits. Like I'm not sure if you remember the green labeled PlayStation games that came
Oh
out
yeah, greatest
for a
hits. I
while.
remember that. Yeah.
Yes, so that's one section. Since I found out there were about 210 releases stateside, then I did the same thing for the Japanese region. I have no idea how many those are. And then the Japanese games came out one section. Then they also had those weird looking like semi double wide cases. that you
Right.
see in shops all the time. So that's their own section. So that ended up being a special order for crates. Then I got long boxes, like the original games that came out in the States in 1995. They made 128 of those. I have 127 of those right now, actually. So those are there. And then I have like demos and special stuff on the other end, and then European games, which sadly I don't have that many.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
interesting.
trying to start
Wait,
the process on that.
so wait a minute. Do you actually have like more? You said just a minute ago that you have like a whole display of like games that aren't pictured in the frame right now.
Yeah, because I have like larger box items, special
You ever,
edition games.
you ever thought about doing a YouTube video like showing us all of them? Like, are they really nicely displayed or not really?
I did one in the very beginning of my channel's career, and every single time I try to start that, I keep getting a whole influx of games, so I end up becoming more and more difficult. I do want to eventually get back to that. There's so many items in so many locations here; it's staggering. And I had to do a complete renovation of this apartment. I live in a 1K in a
Like for
sense, and
America, that's pretty big, but it's still an
eh,
apartment though.
it's like 350 square feet, so it's actually kind of small from me here. And I would say maybe about at least 10% of that space is completely filled from floor to ceiling. And then I have other sections in my apartment where you have systems, box accessories. I eventually need to move this to a storage facility, but it's going to cost me a fortune. Plus, with YouTube and their purge, the one we were talking about back in February,
Hmm.
it hamstringed a lot of efforts there since I make nothing doing these videos whatsoever. I mean, zero.
Right. Well, I don't know. Maybe I think maybe if you figured out a way and like a way how to display your collection in a certain way, because I mean, like you see a few video game people on YouTube nowadays, like lazy game reviews, and
Hmm.
I really like the way he displays and he shows us every game. But I
Yeah, he
guess that
does.
only really works with PC games because they always have those really weird like boxes and how they really decorated them very nicely. Like they're all different looking.
Right. Well, actually, if you go to the very first couple videos in my channel from 2015, I kind of had that same setup, but he does storage facility locations. And since I live in a major city, storage facilities of that size tend to get astronomical.
Oh, really? Give me a
Yeah,
ballpark.
300 to $450 a month.
Yeah, that's pretty expensive.
Yeah,
Because I
plus
remember
I
my
pay.
dad. My dad loved collecting books, and he still does. I mean, he's kind of like you, basically what you'd call a hoarder, but and it's just like he had the storage unit that was like around $300 a month.
Hmm.
It was the creepiest place I've ever been to in my life, where he had the storage shed, where they had like these really dim lights and these dark and dingy, like you could hear this humming sound, and you
Hmm.
could tell it's like they're the type of lights that they left on 24 hours, you know? And so
Right.
it's just the most disturbing place I've ever been to. I mean, I might put it if I could ever find a place like that in Japan. I may like reuse that concept and that idea for a film because it's just so creepy. Anyway, um, which brings me to my question, really. Um, so would you consider your collection, or okay, what do you consider hoarding opposed to collecting?
I would consider hoarding in a situation where you're gonna collect so much stuff and not apply it to anything. With my channel, I intend to review every single North American game ever. And that's been on a process. I put it on a partial hiatus for the rest of 2018, but I got to about 32. So I have about 1,260 some left, if assuming I get every single game that ever came out for North America, which is my intention. And then I'm eventually going to Japan and Europe. I'm probably never going to get a worldwide complete collection, but my goal is to at least get North America. But when you get to the hoarding situation, once again, if you start applying it to getting so much stuff and never use it, and it just sits there, that definitely becomes hoarding for sure.
So you mean like never use, like you never play it? Is that what you're saying?
never play it, or it just sits there in a pile. Like, I had a friend of mine that visited this place 2 weeks ago and saw a huge box of first party Sony controllers and was like, "What are you doing with this?" I'm like, "Well, these go into systems. If somebody needs one bad enough, they can either borrow one from me or purchase one from me." And they're like, "Well, that's hoarding in a sense." I'm like, "Well, I clean them, I use them, I'll hand them out
Yeah,
if
I
you
mean
needed."
that's sort of the thing because I've been reading a bunch of these books on like decluttering recently,
Yeah.
and it like talks about how like when you have things for like a collection, you should only keep what you're gonna play, and then
Hmm.
throw away what you don't need. But I mean, uh, and it is kind. It does get to a point where it's like I feel like maybe it's hoarding when you start putting everything away in boxes, or maybe not. No, not boxes. When you have games you don't really want. Like, let me ask you this: you said you collect those greatest hits ones? Do you collect the
Hmm.
non greatest hits ones too?
Of course. My
Really?
intention is to
You
get
don't consider that hoarding?
all variants. I mean,
Okay.
anything that was ever released in any variant is my intention to get. Yes.
Right. Well, it's like the ultimate goal for all this. Are you going to try to sell them eventually, or you just kind of like the collecting for the sake of collecting?
I do want to open up a museum eventually on it. And my goal is to actually do that
Okay.
in Tokyo itself in due time. Now, that's going to be astronomical in a sense, like we mentioned
Well,
before. I mean, we both did international moves in the past, so
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's going to be a time. I mean, I guess wait 10 or 20 years probably when we don't have any more physical thing because I mean everything's going up on being digitally uploaded. I think that's probably
right.
the way a lot of it's going to go. So there may probably actually be a thing for that because I mean
Yeah.
it is surprised me like you see these games for like Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo that go for
Hmm.
outrageous amounts.
Oh, you should see what's been going on with the PlayStation all of a sudden as well. Like for me, also a secondary part of it, which almost no collector does nowadays, is also upkeep. Like with almost every single one of the games, at least the regular jewel cases, they get regutted into new cases. For the Japanese ones, that happens. Plus, I do a UV wrap around them so that if like I don't get much sun exposure in this area, which is good. But if it did, then you also risk, fading of cases, and then eventually disc rot will become an issue, which is something I'm not looking forward to. I've never had that in 21 years of PlayStation collecting, but I do know that how CDs are made, it's eventually going to happen decades from now, hopefully well after I'm gone.
Mm. I started googling that LSD game, that Japan
Hmm.
only game. Have you
Ain't
ever
that
played
creepy?
this? Have you ever played
Yes.
this before?
Oh my goodness, like that game is trippy as hell. I
Yeah,
love
but
it.
have you
Like,
played it?
yes, of course. I
Okay.
play everything. I play everything that I purchase. But the thing that I always want to get, one of my main items on my wish list, is the strategy guide for it. If you think the game is expensive, try to track down a guide. I'm hearing that the game is averaging about 300 to 400 plus. The guide's going anywhere between $750 and $1,000 US.
Huh. Just because it's a weird Japanese game.
That and the fact that they said that the game was actually made based off a creator's dream journal of like 10 years of stuff. But if you play the game, you're like, what the hell's wrong with her? It's a really part
It's
of my
made by a woman.
friend's a fucked up situation there.
Let
If
me
I
just
if I
watch
had
a let's play of this.
if I had dreams like that, I would be in an institution. That's how crazy they got.
I'm looking at some of the art here on Google, but anyway, yeah, yeah. Probably goes up there with like Polybus.
Oh yeah.
Polybus
I,
is that game system that's like it was an arcade machine, but like it was
mhm.
only made in a few countries or something. Or what's the story
They
behind it?
To my knowledge, they said they only made a few machines in the Portland, Oregon area, and apparently, the Angry Video Game Nerd, which is actually from this area here, went
Oh,
ahead
Philly.
and tried it. But I, it's I've never seen it. I don't know much about it. I would assume that it exists, but I don't know about this. They tried to recreate it for PlayStation 4, I should say. But I'm like, I don't know much about it, to be honest. And if it's that
Right.
crazy that it makes people go trippy, then why haven't we heard about this more and more?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about conspiracies, you know. I mean,
Right.
it's always like you always try to find information that you want to be true, and then when you find something, but it'll never come true, because it's a conspiracy theory.
Right.
I forgot the whole history behind it. I mean, I don't believe any of the conspiracy stuff that it was a government project or whatever bullshit.
I
Because I
don't wish to
mean,
believe that either.
well, it's just sort of like it kind of reminds me of like how all you read about all the UFO stories like back
Yeah.
then. And I mean, if
Roswell.
you think about the stuff today, like how many things we have in the sky today, like drones, satellites, and it's just like it would be next to impossible for like a UFO not to be photographed, you know?
Right.
And you're
I
like
can.
most
Oh,
of
go
the
ahead.
stuff most of the stuff is like weather balloon stuff, where they had the weather balloon, it would be in the air, then it'd quickly disappear, right?
Remember that kid? I think this happened in your old home state, if I'm not mistaken.
Colorado.
About a decade ago, where he had that kid that went into that UFO type thing that everyone tried to claim that he was abducted, and then
Oh
they did
yeah, I
that.
remember that. What's his name? Bubble Boy?
Yeah, shot himself in the foot on live television, and then his parents basically got arrested for it.
Not Bubble Boy. What was his name? He
Some
was
weird name like Tai Kai, something like that.
yeah,
What
and
you
like
knew is
it was all hoax.
yeah.
Well, Bubble Baby, was that it?
I don't
No,
think
I
it's
don't know.
Bubble Baby, but most people probably know what we're talking about right now. But that was crazy because the kid ratted himself out on national television and didn't even realize the ramifications of that.
Because Bubble Boy's a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm looking
remember
it up
that.
right now and I can't seem to find it. But
Bubble Boy.
or yeah, he was in a bubble. I remember that. Yeah, but yeah, that was easily debunked. I mean, that's the problem with nowadays. I mean, I guess you can't really start conspiracies, and because they're easier to like, you know, debunk them, as I said.
Yeah,
But yeah, going back to Polybus or Polybus, how's it pronounced? Polybus.
I think it's Polybus.
This is like back in the day when the first video games they all came into what is it? What are those things called? Arcade
Arcade.
systems? Yeah, I guess you call it an arcade system. Um, did you actually ever play video games in arcades?
Yeah, of course.
Like,
I
what
mean,
was your
they were
favorite game to play in the arcade?
my favorite game to play in the arcade. I would have to say the original NFL Blitz because I was
Oh,
extremely good at it when I was a teenager. We actually had a tournament in the area. This is actually where my first claim to fame were as a video gamer, believe it or not. In 1998, we had a tournament, local tournament in the Philadelphia area, which I won. Then they did like state tournaments and other stuff like that. And eventually, I got a NFL Blitz jacket, which I still have to this day from the manager of Midway. And I mean, it's one of my prized possessions for sure.
what was it? NFL Blitz. I remember that game was really popular on the Nintendo 64 back then, but I had no
Right.
idea it was big on the arcade system.
I mean, it was so popular when it came out on the PlayStation. I actually was recovered from two torn ACLs from a freakish football incident when I was a sophomore in high school, and I I was working at the time because I needed to pay my medical bill on this, and this is the first and last time I've ever called a taxi in my life. Where I actually had to go and get a taxi to pick me up to go to the game store to pick up my reserve of that game, and I played it like nonstop for like 3 or 4 days. It was insane. It came out like early
Right.
September of '98.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at. I was thinking about all these arcade games I used to play. There's one that used to scare me, but you look at it now and like, man, this scared you. What a pussy you were, right?
Well, I mean,
It was. It's
oh, go ahead.
Carn Evil. You remember that game, Carn Evil?
I'm trying to remember
Doesn't ring any
this one.
bells.
I know games like Total Carnage and
Oh
games like
man, that
Galaxian.
game
Like,
freaked me out because like you had clowns and
mhm.
it was really gory, like really gory. Like you'd shoot things with a shotgun, right? And like you blow off half their face or something. And this is like a game in the arcades, like any little kid could just walk up and see this game.
Now I love the evolution of it in the States because I started playing games in arcades. I would probably say about 1984, 1985. And the last time I went to an arcade in its traditional sense was probably about 2003, I want to say. Like it eventually cratered itself. but you would love to see the games that were coming out, like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat, then the sequels of those. Then you got to like Time Crisis and Galaxian, which was like a massive, like maybe like the size of a small room, where it had multiple screens. Darius did the same thing with its triple wide, and then it just eventually evolved itself. And in the states, it just didn't sustain. Almost no arcades exist in its old format. Now there's just like barcades and stuff. I don't do that stuff anyway. The barcades,
Are those
because
the
it
only
makes no.
arcades left? Barcades?
That's the only ones I'm seeing, and I just don't bother with it.
Oh. I remember seeing some video on YouTube where like the Angry Video Game Nerd and Nostalgia Critic and I think the
Mhm.
Black Nerd where they went to a place that had all these old arcade games. But basically it's a thing of the past now though, right? Arcade systems.
The ones in its traditional sense, yes. However, there are still ways to still play them. And in this area, where I live in Philadelphia, we're in a hotbed area, metropolitan wise, where it comes to arcade machines and stuff. I can purchase an arcade machine. Unfortunately, I don't have much room here for one, but I would
Right.
love to own a mass of them at
But
some point.
basically there's no new ones anymore.
Very few and far between.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's any new ones nowadays. Because I mean, like, uh, I don't know. I remember the first time. I mean, this is going to show my age, but I remember the first time I got arcade gaming was actually at Chuck E. Cheese. If you ever went there, or I guess I'm
You
not
beat
sure.
me there. I've never been to a Chuck E. Cheese in my life, surprisingly.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I was born in '87, so I mean, it
Right.
was the '90s. I think Chuck E. Cheese was popular around that time. That's when it was a franchise. This was after I think it was the '80s when there was Showbiz Pizza. Everybody seemed to say that Showbiz
Yes.
Pizza was much better than Chuck E. Cheese because it had more heart in it.
I've
But
heard a lot of my friends say the same thing, and I actually saw a Showbiz Pizza when I was living in Orlando 16 years ago when I was working for Disney World and attending University of Central Florida as a student.
Mhm.
I saw those, and then they converted them over to Chuck E. Cheese's.
Well, guess the mouse won.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
mouse
because I was
one.
listening to Nolan Bushnell, the guy who made
Hmm.
Atari, and he essentially just made Chuck E. Cheese because he wanted somewhere to put his video game consoles to sell them and make kids play them.
Hey, Nolan Bushnell won over on Atari in the end, if you think about it, because when he sold Atari to Warner and Warner decided to give him the 86 treatment, and when they put in their corporate spin, you saw how fast that company broke itself apart. I mean, it's been
Right.
the name's been tossed around so much. They said that a fresh French person owned it, then another French person, and then anything that you could put onto it was just a joke. They recently did like they announced, I think, earlier this year or late last year, like a Atari system they wanted to build, and it got mocked to the point where nobody knows what's going to happen with it. Then they said they wanted to convert it to a computer, and it's like, get out of here with that.
Hmm. So wait a minute. I'm going to backtrack here a little bit. You said you used to work for EA.
Yeah, I actually had a commercial deal for. There was this thing called Sports Gamers. It did it. They did it for one season, and it was bad. I'll be honest. I'm glad that
Well, anything associated with EA is usually pretty bad, but yeah.
I mean, at its time, it was still popular. Like they did the NCAA. I was part of the NCAA football and Madden football series for 2009, but they got a lot of people, mostly some hacks from the Los Angeles area. I like the guys that they hired, but it was mostly hacks. And then they brought me in from Virginia and some guy that won a Madden tournament from Tampa. All of us got converged together at the Sunset Marquee in Los Angeles, California, and various locations to do commercial shoots. And when they got brought up, they just EA just refused to accept our request. I'll say something that nobody knows from the outside.
All
When
right. This is why you're listening, folks. That's why you
right,
stuck this far into the interview just to hear this. All
when
right,
we did
go.
the when we did the NCAA football '09 shoot, they knew that I played college football here and there. I attended schools at Virginia Tech, University of Central Florida, and then Norfolk State University. But um, they asked me what school they wanted me to use on a background, like the green screen, and they asked what school I wanted there, and I was like, well, Norfolk State's not part of the programs. I wasn't really associated much with UCF for obvious reasons. But then I was like, well, let's put Virginia Tech's background in there. They put University of Kansas on there. I was ticked off when I saw the final end of it, and then they didn't use it on the television sense, they used it on the internet sense. So of course they slashed my contract when that occurred, and I only got about $3,500 for that, as opposed to about 10 or 11,000 that I was supposed to get. Granted, I got a free trip to Los Angeles right after my 26th birthday, but still was like, what the bleep? And then they did the other shoots for Madden. Then there was a game called Facebreaker at the time for PlayStation 3, which was kind of cheesy. It was almost like a contender game for the PlayStation. And then after one season, they said, the hell with it. They're not going to do it. And they never done it again. I guess they didn't like our product.
Okay, so basically, you got the job at EA. So, wait, what were you doing exactly?
When I first did YouTube on the Lancaster City Dragon Rats, I did this infamous video, which I wish I never deleted from my original channel. It was the history of the NCAA football series that went on from 1993 to 2007 at that point. And they loved my knowledge and skills on it, and they asked if I wanted to go to Los Angeles. I thought it was a hoax, to be honest with you, at first, because
When was
I
this?
just 2008 when
Okay.
they talked to me. I was new to YouTube, and I thought someone was playing with me, because who the hell contacts anybody at YouTube from YouTube at that point, or from other sites? So I'm like,
No, YouTube was a
okay,
different beast back then, but yeah.
yes it was, yes it was. So I was like, is this a hoax? And they were talking to me and stuff, and they were like, seriously, this is not a hoax. We're going to give you a SAG-AFTRA contract and stuff if you want to go. And I was just hired at a job like 3 weeks prior to it. So I went to my boss about it. He was like, well, if you accept this, we might have to let you go. And I'm like, well, I guess you're gonna have to let me go. They weren't working me much, and I was making crap wages, and knowing a SAG-AFTRA contract was with
So wait,
megabucks.
what did you do there exactly?
What, with EA or with the job that I
EA.
had? Oh, with EA, just did a couple commercial shoots and talked about the history of NCAA football and Madden, and they let me go right away. It was a
Oh,
job
it's
that
kind of
wasn't
like
going
a
to last long.
temporary thing.
Yeah, it was temporary.
Oh, okay, I see. Um, yeah, because what's your whole opinion about EA and their loot boxes?
Oh man, the loot boxes. Like,
'Cause I mean,
I'm a big.
I like a few EA games. Ugh, can't speak.
I love Star Wars Battlefront, but that's about it. Like, Battlefield is fine and all, but the loot box thing. I mean, they shot themselves in the foot many, many times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a few EA games here I like. I like The Simpsons Tapped Out. I play that every day.
Yeah, it's a
Anybody
good
who
game.
anybody who listens, you can add me. My name is Happy Son Stud on there. Happy with a Y,
Stud.
not with a happy happy with an I, not with a Y. Excuse me. I'm playing a game called Unravel right now. I've been streaming that, and
Yeah, it
that's the
was
EA game.
hilarious.
And then also, let's see what else. What's the other one? Oh, Oddworld, but I haven't played that one yet. The Oddworld Stranger's Wrath or something. I haven't played that one yet. I want to get around to playing that, but
I'm playing the original Oddworld game,
sounds
and the
great.
funny. I'm gonna tell you something inside here. You remember about 10 years ago you did a video on the, what was it, the Nakano Broadway, and you made that infamous crack joke about Oddworld Odyssey and Abe 99.
Oh yeah.
As
I'll
soon
put
as
the
I
link
played it
down
for
in
the
the
first,
I'll put the link down below if anybody wants to see
already,
that video. Anyway,
yeah,
yeah, go on.
the, the first
899.
time I was playing the PlayStation Classic, and I saw that in the North American one. I was cracking jokes on that, like the lines that you were saying from that. It's one of my favorite videos that you had from the old times, though. But it was hilarious that you said that, because I saw Abe 99 in store shelves. Excuse me, in store shelves, and I was like, "Why the hell is it 15,000 yen plus?"
I don't know, man. I bought it. I have it here. It's in
I
there.
don't even own it.
It was not expensive. The I think it's the sequel that's expensive. Let's see. Oddworld Japan.
Yeah, it was
Can't
weird
remember.
when I saw
They
Abe
called the first.
99.
They called the first one Abe 99. Then they called the sequel something. I forgot what it was called.
Abe's
Oh, Abe a Go Go. That's what it is.
mhm.
Okay, I'm sorry. Abe
You can
99 is Abe's Exodus, and the first Oddworld is called Abe a Go Go. I don't know how they came up with that title.
I don't know either because they ended up becoming Abe's Odyssey. No, Abe's
Yeah, I don't know.
Exodus.
There's always these things in Japan where it's like, how did they come up with this idea? You
Exactly.
know?
Abe 99 especially. I was like, what the hell? Abe
Well, I mean,
99?
Abe 99 makes a bit more sense because you have to save 99 Mudokons. You have to save them in the game.
Right, but it came out right at that time too. I mean, it seemed like it was a sports game in a sense.
Yeah, that does sound like a sports game. Well, maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
what they were
Abe
trying to.
99.
Maybe that's what they were trying to do with it. Maybe just make it seem more like a sports game to try to sell it. Because
Well, the funny thing about that is it's you got infinite lives, but you get taken out so easily and so viciously, and that's amazing.
yeah, great game by the way. Can't wait till
Yes,
the
it
sequel
is.
comes out. I'll stream it when it comes out because I'm
All right.
so looking forward to it. But anyway, this isn't. I should play this game in Japanese. I don't know.
I gotta find those in the Japanese regions. I own neither one, and actually, I only own Abe's Exodus in North America. I actually don't own the original. I gotta find it. I know I could get it easily. It costs like $15 to $20. I just have to go and get it.
Yeah, no, the Abe 99 is hard to get, but
Yeah, I've been
the
seeing those
Abe
at
Go Go is
15.
easy to find though because I bought
I've been
that.
I've been seeing Abe 99 at like 15 to 20,000 yen all over the place.
Hmm. Yeah,
Don't know why.
seems that it was a good price on Amazon JP because I mean the best if you want to buy good games in Japan because like here in Japan when you come here, your best bet is always book off. I mean, and you can always
Yeah,
get pickups. There's a do you
100 yen.
follow? I should have him on the show. Do you know Kid Shio
Yes, we talked about him before
Did we on the?
a long time
I don't
ago.
think we. I don't
Not
think
on
we
the
talked about
podcast.
him. Not on the podcast. Okay, so you watch him from time to time.
From time to time. I like
Okay.
the channel.
Would you kind of like follow his style or not really?
Not really. I mean, a lot of people don't like my style on YouTube because it seems dry, but it really isn't. Like, I'm old school in a sense. I was born in the very early stages of the millennial era, but I tend to be more the generation before, the more hardworking style.
Are you
I
like
let my work
84, 83, that sort of thing?
82.
82. Okay. No, I'd say that's more Generation X.
Yeah, I let my work speak for itself. If I wanted to do
All
glitz and
right.
glamour, then I can do glitz and glamour. But it's like, why would I need to do that? I'm more to that my 2007 2008 approach. But at that point in YouTube, I was getting 1 million+ views a year. I'm not getting as much as I wanted to in this, but it's been a hell of an improvement from 2017. I will say that now. I was actually pulling up some statistics on the analytics portion, and I tend to get myself into controversies because of that from time to time. But since we did our last podcast, the numbers have exploded. I mean, I'm almost at 75,000 views for my lifetime total, but my subscription count's nearly doubled, and my view count's definitely doubled plus actually.
What do you think it is people like seeing that made it double?
Just the fact that I'm just straight nose to the book. In our previous podcast together, I talked about when I worked for GameStop. I always had that no nonsense approach to it, but I was always I saw it from the customer's point of view as well. I
Right.
always apply it there because we have this controversy that's going on right now with PlayStation Classic and how so many people rip the living crap out of it. Like, there's no filters, there's no scan lines, the games suck, blah blah blah. The thing that I hate the most that they're complaining about is the fact that their game is not on the list. There's in North America alone, there's almost 1,300 games that were released. They can only put 20 on there. What do they expect out of the 20?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
my top
yeah.
20 is nowhere near on it. Their top 20 is nowhere near on it. And then there was all these things that they did to it. They did the best that they could do with it, and I actually quite love this system. And the fact that these things probably are going to be hackable, I bought multiple ones just for that reason.
Hmm. Okay.
I
I
mean,
see.
I'm gonna eventually do like I want to do a video in time if they do find a way to hack it, and I find a way to to make it the way I want to make it. I want to do like my favorite games on this because I did podcasts in the past when I tried to do my own version of podcasts. I did my top 20, and so many people ripped on it because my top 20 is untraditional. But keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I played 98.5% of this library in North America. Almost everything that's ever been released, I played in some way, shape, or form.
All right.
I think I have the right to make my top 20 on that.
Okay. All right. So this brings me up to a good question here. All
Mhm.
right. So top 5 worst games in any order.
Woo, let's see here. Top 5 worst games.
It's like if you got stuck on an island and it'd be like torture, that being one of the only games you could play.
NFL Extreme 2. I was a huge fan of the first one, but the second one was just poorly done. Let's see.
Wow, that's off. That's really, really intricate. I didn't think you'd have an answer right away. I can't
Yeah,
think.
that one. Like this is not going to be easy, but that one just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Let's see here. I typed in bad PS1 games.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to like a lot of
Bubsy
stuff for it.
3D.
That one has its intricacies, but I actually got to give them credit where credit's due for it being released in 1996, where the controls are brutal in that game. I wouldn't put it top 5 worst, but it's definitely up there. But the thing that amazed me was the fact that they actually resurrected that son of a bitch
Hmm.
in 2017. Have you played Busby yet? The new one that came out on PlayStation 4?
No, I
Oh
haven't.
goodness gracious! You played it because you'd be so surprised how well they did that one compared to the ones in the past.
Hmm.
Like I got to give the company that did that kudos. I bought their limited edition. And I was like, it's going to be garbage. It was actually well done, and the limited edition was only $40 when it came out. I got to give them credit there.
Okay. So another one on here is The Fifth Element. I never played that one either.
Oh
Supposedly
yeah,
that's really bad.
that one was pretty ugly. It's the Bruce Willis tie-in movie. The same issue with Bubsby follows that. The controls are brutal. Graphically, it wasn't great, but I think it came out in '97, if I'm not mistaken. That one they could have done a better job because Apocalypse came out as well for
Yeah.
PlayStation 1, and that one was not bad at all. Actually, it was so good. In Japan, they released this part of Super Light 1500 series, which
Uh-huh.
I found that at a book off in where did I go for that one? It was this year. I went to the one in Sotokando. It was
Okay. I don't
just
know where that is, but all
it's
right.
just south of Akihabara where the bridge leads
Okay.
up to the Chuo. That one I found out of nowhere and it was like 500 yen, so I grabbed it, even though I just bought the U.S. version of it like a week before I went to Japan.
Oh, well, I'm looking through this list right now. It's on thegamer.com. And another one on here. A lot of these I've seen like Angry Video Game Nerd episodes on. They have
Independence Day.
Independence Day is not on there. Would that make your
Oh,
list? The other
that
ones,
one that would be close.
the ones that are on here are like, was it the Crow City of Angels?
Brutal,
Um,
brutal.
was it Star Wars Masters of Terras
Oh,
Kazi? I'm not sure.
Terakazi.
Yeah.
That one was a broken. That came out right as I got my first PlayStation 1 in December of 1997. I got a demo for it on my PlayStation, and I don't know what the hell happened in that one. LucasArts did a bad job on that. That would be a top 5 worst game.
Okay. I
That
see.
one would be on there. Yeah,
What? There's a MTV Celebrity Deathmatch game? I didn't even know
yeah.
this existed.
They came out for it on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. I like the PS2 version. The PS1 version, there was no reason for it to ever be released on the PlayStation. That game should have been $10 when it came out, and it
Hmm.
plays like a $5 game.
I think I remember seeing this one, Rascal.
Oh, that one was a over budgeted, overhyped game. That one should be an
What?
AVGN game.
What is this game? Santa Claus Saves the Earth? What the hell
European
is
one.
this?
I'll be doing my annual gameplay of that in a couple of weeks. That was the first European game I actually have. Actually, I
Oh, this
have
looks
that.
terrible. This like the
I'm pulling that one up right now because that's how bad it was.
damn.
Santa
Let's
Claus
see.
Saves.
You have it, huh?
Yes, it was the very first European game I've ever had. This piece of shit is Brutal.
Well, I imagine it is if it makes all these lists.
Oh my
Floating
goodness.
Runner, Quest of the Seven Crystals.
That one I have never played, but I do want. I actually don't own that game. I've been looking for it for 6 months now.
Hmm. Oh, looks like it's yeah, it looks like Blasto. I actually like Blasto. Blasto
Blasto
was
was
on a
on the
few.
same Blasto was on the same end as Rascal, and I feel bad about that because it was a Phil Hartman game right
I
before he
really
got.
like that game. Everybody takes a big shit on it, but
I didn't mind it at the time. It's just one of those games that didn't age well, and it reminds me. Obviously Phil Hartman did it right before he got killed off by his wife, but
yeah, that was
uh,
something else, huh? They
that
were
was a
supposedly going to make a
dark day.
Blasto too, but then Phil Hartman died, and they said, "Well,
Yeah,
we're too depressed about him being dead." So
that was
yeah,
a
that's too
very
bad.
very bad
He's like
bad
he was a
day.
great actor. He was good in Simpsons,
Simpsons, yeah.
and he had like one of those voices. He was always good, like a good macho character, and he always did.
Don't worry, be happy, or
And he
something
also
like
did
that.
like the really yeah, and he also did the very kind of meek, annoying neighbor, like in Jingle All the Way.
Oh yeah. Oh, Radrey, you want to see how poorly done they did the game cover? I mean, the disc cover of this. If you see
Good
that, that's
job.
horrible. Yeah, that's Santa Claus for
Looks
you.
looks like a what is it?
Damn
That
Europeans.
looks like a demo disc they got in PlayStation Magazine.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, man, I used to have that magazine. It was like $40 a month or something. It was so worth it. I got to play so many games. Did
I
you have
have
that? Did you
the.
have that subscription back then?
Yeah, actually, I can show you something real quick on that too. I'm gonna pull up something that a lot of people wish they had in that. I'm glad I have the speakers. I mean, my headset on for this. Okay, this is when I got lucky in this because the first time I had a complete collection, I actually gave it to my best friend. So I had to locate another one, and I got this about 11 years ago for $50, and now it's going for so much more. I mean, it's the
Holy
complete,
shit, that's all
the
of them, huh?
com- all 112 discs from both PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2.
Did they stop making the magazine recently? I don't know.
They stopped it a little after 2007, but I know in Japan they still make them, but not with demo discs, obviously. I
Oh,
think
I see.
that killed it off when it was like when PlayStation 3 was out in 2006, and very few demo discs came out. There was like, what's the point of the demo disc, and just scrapped it.
Well, I mean, that was like before YouTube, and so like you used to get all these like really cheesy cutscenes in them and everything, and
Yeah.
these people like show you how to beat games. And I can't remember, they had one where like they had like this one chick who played video games. It was kind of like a role playing thing. It was so cringy. It was like that. What's that one Angry Video Game Nerd episode? Plumbers don't wear ties.
Oh yeah, the 3DO
Something
game
like
that came
that.
out
Yeah,
in
3DO. That's what it
'94.
was.
I actually
Great.
owned that game
You own
briefly.
that game.
I used to own that very. I owned it very briefly. I got from my ex girlfriend. She bought me a 3DO system, and it was among those
And you sold
um
it?
among those games. I sold it like
Oh,
2009.
damn,
I
that's probably
hate
worth a. It's probably worth some money now. Just
maybe. I mean, I can easily get the game again. They have it at the local shop here by my house.
okay, maybe it's not that popular. Maybe Miss what's his name? Angry Video Game Nerd hyped it up, but it's
But then
just
again,
so awful.
I think I lost my opportunity in possibly getting a copy of it because 3DO had no copy protection whatsoever. So those games, I mean, no one really bought them. So it's like if you could have found an image for it, I don't condone emulation, and plus websites got took down left and right here in North America recently. So an image of that is impossible to find. It looks like, but I would rather just go and find an original copy.
Yeah, it reminds me of like that was like the game you played where you didn't have Leisure Suit Larry. You know,
Oh yeah,
the only
I.
Leisure Suit Larry game I ever played was that one they made for PlayStation 2, which is
Oh
supposed to be pretty bad, but
jeez.
it's like for adults only.
The first time I ever saw Leisure Suit Larry, it was actually in school back in the day.
Really?
I think it was.
Why did
I
you
think
see
this was
that in
like.
school?
I don't know. Like we had computer labs in junior high school. I attended junior high school for 1 year in '95, and happened to see those on the IBM computers, IBM PC computers of its time. It was really
Hmm.
weird, and I'm like, "What's this?" Leisure Suit Larry. But then everyone would play Doom, so I'll go right away and play Doom and Wolfenstein and stuff like that.
Yeah. You never got in trouble for having this kind of games? I guess this is before when gaming was a big
It
thing.
wasn't mine, so it's like, why would I get in trouble for you? Granted, I had a computer, an IBM computer at my house. Got my first one in '94, and then I got an upgrade to it in '98.
All
Luckily,
right. Let me ask you this. Was there any video games you ever played that scared you?
not really. I mean,
No, man,
the
there's so
closest,
many I played that scared me.
the only game that ever kind of scared me as an adult was PT. You remember PT?
Yeah, that's pretty scary. It was good. That was a good one. I'd like to see more like that.
I'm going to say this right now to Konami, and I've said this to GameStop before in the previous video. Fuck you, Konami. I mean, they had to
Oh
go and mess
yeah,
with
no.
Guillermo Toro, and they messed with Guillermo Toro and Hideo Kojima, and then PT got
Yeah, it's
blown to
such a
bits.
sadness. I mean, I don't know. Just seeing the work that went just behind that trailer is amazing. And I
It
mean,
was
all it is
amazing.
like all this is a guy walking through a fucking hallway.
And then
You
it
know?
just looped and looped, but then you go to a bathroom, it triggers something else. You get to see the clock, and then you see blood started going from places, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, the first time that the creepy creature came up to me, it threw me back. Actually, it was like, whoa, this is awesome.
Yeah. No, okay, so I'll go through the games that scared me as a kid.
All right,
Alone in the Dark. That
which
usually
one?
the original, the very original, because I played
Okay,
that. You think I'm a pussy for if you watch it
no, not
today.
at all. What
So
was it? The face?
horrible.
Was it the face of the main character that scared you? Because it was really odd looking.
No, it's because like there was like such tension in it. It was kind of like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing,
The music
where
score was great in that game. I
yeah,
got to
it
give you
was
that
really
for
good. The music really did.
1992. Yeah, that was
Like
great.
because it was a Five Nights at Freddy's thing. Because you go in there and then all of a sudden, if you trigger the sound, either a zombie comes after you or like a dog comes after you, and you had to fight them.
Yes.
I remember my father's friend had it installed in his computer, and I was so scared I had to leave the room whenever that stuff
Wow.
happened. It was that, and there's a game called The Haunting with a it's a PlayStation, uh not PlayStation, it's Sega Genesis game,
Oh,
or newer.
have you ever played Siren for either the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3?
I have not played Siren. I mean, everybody says it's great.
The original Siren was crazy. The one that came out in PlayStation 3 where it was 12 different episodes, it wasn't as great as the original, but in North America for the PlayStation 4, it got re-released, and that game is something else. I love that game. That was
Yeah, I
scary,
should play
actually.
it one of these days. It's not like
It's
what is it? Fatal Frame, is it?
I would actually I would put Siren scarier than Fatal Frame for one particular
Well,
part. In
I,
the
I saw what's his name Markiplier play through Fatal Frame.
Yeah,
It wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't scary. It was
not
creepy,
really.
sure.
It was just a super expensive game when it would come into my store at GameStop back in the day. I would see it's like 49.99. Seriously? Put it
This
away
game
and
looks pretty
watch
good.
some sucker buy it.
Just Googled it right now. Yeah, I'll give this a shot. I don't know. Are they ready to make a sequel to it?
What, Siren?
Yeah. Oh, the sequel,
Siren,
Siren 4.
well, they did a 12 episode set for PlayStation 3, but outside of that, I've not seen
Yeah, I
another
should
game
give that
come
one a
out.
try.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so there's
the beginning of Siren One. I mean, yeah, the Siren One was crazy because it was a lot of people used to tell me, "Hey, are Japanese people like this?" And I'm like, "No, I won't give it away, but play the beginning, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about."
all right, I'll give it a try. No, there's this game called The Haunting, and you played as this. It's like a really kind of this Bart Simpson looking character, and he plays this character named Polterguy, and he has like this kind of hair that sticks up. And the object of the game
Oh yeah.
was to scare everybody out of the house, and you had to like scare people out. And the game just really freaked me out. It really, I couldn't.
I do remember that now. I never
I
played it,
rented
but
it
I do know what you're talking
I rented it from Blockbuster, and it freaked me out so much I didn't want to
about.
play it anymore. Because like there's
Blockbuster.
well, yeah, what happened was you try to I remember the controls are just awful, and you had the object. Like I said, the object of the game is to like scare the parents out of or the whatever the family is in the house, kind of like a Beetlejuice kind of thing,
Hmm.
right? And what would happen is if you failed, you had to go to hell, and then you had to escape hell, and it was sort of like, ugh, this again, like you have to get out of hell and everything. But
Kind of sounds like if Poltergeist came out on the Atari back in the day.
Yeah, I don't
of the
know.
original movie
This
was,
game
or
was
Amityville actually.
this one was unsettling, but yeah. Huh. All right. Well, so real quick before we got to go because I have to
Hmm.
something to do here. Um, best like classic PlayStation games you can take with you anywhere. Name 5. Go.
Nightmare Creatures, NFL Blitz, Metal Gear Solid, Crash Bandicoot 3, and just for shits and giggles, LSD.
All right. Wow, you really like that one, huh?
It's very very scary in a sense, but it makes you think, and I really enjoy that games that really make you think from a different perspective.
Nightmare Creatures. I've never played this one. Is this kind of like a
They
Resident Evil kind of thing?
there was supposed to be like a remake of it that was supposed to come out, but um, the game somehow either stalled or got canceled. All of a sudden, they made a re-announcement of it in 2017. It came out in 1997, so it was right at the time when I got my first PlayStation, and it's stuck with me ever since.
Huh.
That was a scary type of kind of a scary Halloween game, but nowadays it's just something you can laugh at with a beer.
Yeah, it's just because of those polygons. The polygons really ruin it. But I
Fucking
don't know. I mean,
Polygon.
you still have people. I mean, it would be nice to see like a reboot, like they did, like they're doing of Resident Evil 2 right
Right.
now,
I mean, they made a
or
sequel
kind of
to
a
it.
reimagining.
They made a sequel, I think, in '98 or '99 that had Rob Zombie as the soundtrack, and it was really cool. But a lot of people have been asking for way too much money for that game lately. That game is probably worth like $20, but people are going for like 30, 35, 40 for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess if I had to list my favorite PS1 games, Oddworld,
Hmm.
um, shit, what else would it be? Twisted Metal 2? Yeah, Twisted Metal 2, definitely.
Okay.
Um, shit.
Santa
I
Claus
can't.
Saves the Earth.
There you go. No. I guess just off the top of my head, because I'm not really a big collector of the old systems. But I mean, the ones I remember, it's yeah, definitely those two. What else? Can't think of anything. I mean, I love Toomba, but I never finished it. um,
It was pretty cool.
yeah, I think we just have to go with those two. I can't. I'd have to like think about it.
That's
Probably
fine.
when I'm done with this episode, I'll put it down in the description. Everybody can read what it is.
Episode part 3.
All right, Jimmy. Yeah, I got kind of gotta cut this one down because I
All
would
right, Radrey.
love to sit and chat and but I gotta wake up early tomorrow and do
Right,
some
that's fine.
stuff. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Well, guys, if you want to go and watch the videos that I have up, you can go and check up the Sanctuary YouTube channel on YouTube. It's www.youtube.com/c/Jimmy L Sanchez, or just look it up online. You'll see my videos.
Okay. All
I guess
right.
that's about it. Or try to help me get to over 300 subscribers. I'm like 3 or 4 away.
Yeah, well, my goal right now is to get through 3,000 subscribers, where I was at like a couple
Right.
of years ago. But I need to really push. But
Yeah, I want to reach my numbers from my old channel, which was maxed at 1,016, but that'll be
it's
some
not
time
bad.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit harder these days. You really got to
Yes, it
fight
is.
for those subs. I mean, I'm not
Fight, fight,
PewDiePie.
fight!
I mean, I do find this whole what is it, PewDiePie versus T series thing very fascinating.
Right? I noticed that lately. It's like, how the hell is two channels have that many damn subscribers? I'm not a subscriber of either one of them. I could care less.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's nice to have like you could being able to subscribe. I'm sure like PewDiePie has a whole team and everything, all that
And
bullshit.
PewDiePie has
But I'd
caused more
rather,
controversies than need be as well.
yeah. I mean, I'd rather see him succeed because T series kind of feels like one of these things where it's like it feels like it's going to be an end of an era
Hmm.
where it's going to be like the big companies win out over the little guy. And I mean, I'm not saying PewDiePie's little, but he probably doesn't have a huge team. He's not like maybe he's like an MCN, but I'm just saying
Right.
he's not as a huge entity as like T series is, where it's like a whole.
Kind of like
Um,
my channel in a sense, but with a hell of a lot less subscribers.
yeah, so I mean, if he could like withstand, being on YouTube as long as he can, I think, yeah, go sub to him. That's all I can say. I mean, it's all it is. You can just delete the. You can unsub later. After this thing probably dies down, or
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm not
Or
sure.
have them subscribe to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so this was a live recording here on YouTube. Be sure to, push the buttons, do the thing, do that thing you do. Um, Next week on the show is Kagoshima Cameron. He is a tour guide. He gives people tours all around Japan, and I'm very interested to talk to him because uh, I want to see what it's like to be a tour guide. It's all about making that easy money. That's not English teaching. If you can get it, you're in like sin. Well, maybe not like sin, but you're in. Right, I'm sure. All right, well, we'll talk about this next week. Stay tuned. Uh, be sure if you have any other questions, just check the link down below. If questions, what am I saying? Anyway, and until then, I'm Radrey,
And I'm
and
Jimmy.
see you guys.
Take care, everyone.